the name of your podcast. Now, this feels massive. I know for me, it took me a long time to kind of settle on the right name for my podcast. And if I let you know that when I started out, it was called The Untypical OT. And it was called The Untypical OT Talks. And I kept it as that for quite a long time. And over time, as I discovered, as you'll learn from me, is that I do the research kind of as I'm going along. I'm not very good at doing research prior to setting off. I just kind of go with it. So what I found as I went along and talking to other podcasters and having a look at what other people do is I slowly realised, a bit too slowly possibly, that The Untypical OT Talks was probably not the greatest name for a podcast. And here's why. So the main thing in my title, in the name of my podcast, was that I used the word OT, which, let's face it, probably most of you listening have no clue what an OT is. So even if I thought, okay, well, I'll call it the Untypical Occupational Therapist Talks. And then I thought, yeah, probably no one knows what that is either. So what I was doing was having an impact on the searchability of my podcast. So what I would say is when you're thinking about creating a name for your podcast is making sure that it's searchable. So if people are looking for new podcasts, what kind of words might they use when thinking about your podcast? And it's useful to have and use some of those within your name of your podcast. Now, I'm no expert in searchability, in algorithms, in all of that kind of stuff. But what I have learned is finding a title and a name for your podcast does matter. And there are options out there. So there is, and I'll pop it in the show notes, there is a link for Buzzsprout. And Buzzsprout offer an easy for some to say, an AI name generator. So you can put in information about the podcast, who it's for, what it's meant to be about, all those kind of things. And it will spit out a load of possible names for you. I think, I'll have to double check, I think it also will tell you whether that podcast name is being used elsewhere. And again, that isn't something that I even thought about. I just set the name up and set off. And actually, in hindsight, setting up a podcast, I would have done a bit of a search to check who was using either the same name, similar name, around in that kind of similar area, just so I knew what else I was up against. And I didn't do that. I was lucky enough that I chose things that actually there wasn't too many things that it was aligned similar to. But that was way more luck than it was any kind of planning on my part. And I think in hindsight, that's what I would have done, is just check. So the name generators are really worth using. They're usually quite good. They come up with some different options. I would say probably still take that and tweak it. Don't rely on AI all the time. Take it and tweak it. But do consider it's got to be searchable. It's got to have something in the title that would make people think, okay, that's what I'm looking for. So, for example, I moved from my podcast from the Untypical OT Talks to the Untypical Parent Podcast. My podcast is particularly around neurodivergent parents or neurodivergent families, and it's around supporting parents in those families. So that's why I gave it the name. I managed to get the name parent in there, but I also managed to keep the word untypical, which is kind of branded within my different things that I do. So I managed to keep that all in together. So think about that when you're giving your name to your podcast. Is searchability. Are the words going to be things that people would search for? Make it unique if you can. So make it so that it's unique to you, and either, if you're in a business, your brand, but also just unique to you if you're just setting this up because you want to talk about something and actually this is nothing to do with a business. And not all podcasts have to be business related. They can just be, this is somebody's joy and they want to talk about it and they want to share it with other people. The other thing, so other than it being unique and searchable, The other thing that it's worth thinking about is it needs to be easy to say. So if you've got some really, really complicated tongue twistery type, it's really difficult for people to remember it. What you want is a podcast that somebody will hear the name of it, and they can go search for it. Because sometimes it's not always there's going to be chances to put links for things. So if they can't spell it, well, being dyslexic, I can't spell a lot of things. But, not thinking about using great big long words that the majority of people cannot spell, because you're going to lose people trying to go and search for you and find you. So make it so it's easy to say, easy to write, and not complicated. There's probably loads of other things. And actually, if you look on the Buzzsprout link that I'm going to put in the show notes, it goes through other areas, which I've got here. So it talks about the things that I've spoken about, which is things like searchability. They talk about making it memorable. So sometimes a little bit quirky, a little bit off the ball can be great. It makes something that makes people smile, something that feels real. That's the other thing as well. With so much AI generated stuff out there. Yeah, you can use your AI generators to help, but still make it you. Still make it in your voice, what you would say, what you would call it, because that's what makes it real. And I do think, we do have to, we've got to play the game and make sure it can get listened to and all that kind of stuff. I get all that. But actually, if you give your podcast a title of a name that's stuffy and boring, and actually you're quite quirky, then when those people come to listen, it's not going to be what they expect. If your podcast is much more down the line, very straightforward, then give it that type of name so people know what they're going to get. It needs to say what it does on the tin. And then you're going to get the listeners. They're going to get delivered what they were hoping to get and what they were expecting to get. I hope that's helped. I'd love to know some of your names, whether you use the podcast generator with Buzzsprout, and I'm not affiliated to them, so maybe I need to be. Go and have a look at that. Have a go. There, I'm sure, are other name generators out there. But like I said, don't just rely on AI. Get your ideas from AI, absolutely, if you're getting stuck. But try tweaking it around. Try messing around with names and words and different things. And then maybe go out and ask people. Ask people what they think. Sometimes that can get too much because everybody's got an opinion. But go with your gut. Go with something that feels right for you and looks like you. And I know that sounds weird. How can a name look like you? But like I said, people, when they turn up to listen to it, are going to want the person that they think they're going to be getting. Otherwise, they just disappear again. And you were never the right show for them in the first place. So don't worry about being you and showing you in your podcast title, whilst making it searchable, making it memorable, making it easy to remember. Not too much to remember. But you can do it. So good luck. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know what names you might be coming up with. And probably as well, last bit, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Anyway, good luck. I'm going to go. See you later. Bye.